Welcome, everyone. I know it's after post-lunch, so let's see if we can make this exciting for you. So welcome to the session of Reimagining Service in the AI Era. I'm Samir Abinkar. I'm a director of product in the Einstein team. I joined a couple of years ago. I started with leading several of the predictive AI capabilities, and now I lead some of the service GPT apps, including Copilot as well. So I'm joined here with my colleagues. I'll shortly introduce them as well. All right. So first of all, get some of the basics here. Pick up your phone, take a screenshot of this, submit a review, and if G2 accepts your review, you will get a $25 gift card. So who doesn't need that, right? All right. Forward-looking statement. I expect you to read every single word of this. I'm just kidding. All it says is please make your purchasing decisions based on what is generally available. So, all right. This is probably the most important for me as a product manager. I work with a lot of customers, a lot of partners, and I get a lot of feedback. So I just want to say thank you because you guys give us that input. We use that input to define our product strategy, product roadmap. So thank you for coming here. Thank you for taking the time and spending a time of learning here at TDX and giving us that input, valuable input that defines our product roadmap. So thank you. All right, so I'm joined here with Tim Casey and John Capalbo. Tim, if you have been to TDX before, like he's a veteran. He's a distinguished solution engineer in the Service Cloud team, and John is a technical product marketing manager in Service Cloud. So we will be tag teaming this particular presentation. All right, quick look at the agenda here. So we'll start with what are the key challenges that we see today in customer service delivery organizations. We'll look at how Service Cloud AI solutions are fitting in and providing that end-to-end solution for these organizations. Tim and John will demo some of these capabilities that we are building across, along with some customer stories to share with you how our customers are implementing this today. And with closing thoughts, we want to give you some resources to look at. All right, let's jump in. So I would say one thing, I think, which you all will agree. Customer service is core to your brand experience. Let's take one example here. Anyone who's here as an Amazon retail customer, just raise your hand. I think many of you are like probably 90%. I should probably rephrase my question and say, who is not an Amazon retail customer? So I've been with Amazon for 6 years, and I'm not being biased. I've taken customer service calls as a product manager to listen to what customers say. And customer service really is the most important thing that defines the brand. I was launching a product in Amazon regarding an electronics division, and I was talking to the customer service delivery team. This was back in 2010, and he told me this. He said, Samir, I want to go out of business. I want to make everything self-service. That was just a phenomenal statement. That was almost 14 years ago. And now here we are. So if you look at customer service delivery organization, if you are a loyal customer, customers stay. If you have even one bad experience, they will leave. A recent survey has shown that 83% of the customers, if they are satisfied, they will come again. They will buy your product again. But 96% of the customers, even with one bad experience, they will leave your platform. And that's pretty phenomenal data point. That basically shows that customer service experience drives revenue for your organization. According to the recent survey from Forrester, or report from Forrester, basically says that if these organizations empower their customer service representative to deliver best experience, you see an incremental $7 billion in revenue. That's huge. And every customer service delivery manager or organization that you talk to, they said, yes, this is very important. And year after year, this becomes a challenge for them to ensure how can I deliver the best customer experience. And this is where we have a lot of problems, especially in the last few years, once we started with COVID, like you have seen the volume of conversations that went up on customer delivery organizations. Everything was happening over phone, email, chat. The complexity of the cases have gone up. And that essentially also has a direct impact on what expectations your customers have of your platform. And in this new era of AI, more and more customer service organizations are really changing their strategy. They're focusing more on self-service. As an example, we just talked about with Amazon. They are moving towards more proactive communication with the customers. They don't want to be reactive anymore. They want to judge, how can I predict what is coming next? And this is where a transformation needs to happen, which is take a customer service delivery organization and not make that a cost center, but a revenue driver. And we'll talk about some of the capabilities that Einstein AI delivers, Service Einstein AI delivers, that makes these gives the power to your agents to become revenue drivers. And at the core of this is AI. You have CRM data, you have trust. All of these capabilities are built in this. But it's very, very hard to deliver all these solutions today. If you look at what has happened in the last couple of years, especially in the last year with the whole bubble of LLM, there's a lot of mistrust today in terms of what is happening to my data. There is complexity just organizationally. You have challenges in finance. You have technical implementation challenges. You have operational challenges. All of them makes it very difficult to implement a seamless customer experience for your customers. And this is where Einstein 1 Service Cloud shines. This is like one takeaway if you want to take away from this particular session is this slide, which brings everything together for Einstein 1 Service. It's an end-to-end solution for whatever you need from a service standpoint. You have self-service to field service, everything in one bucket. Right? You may say why it is important. Let me walk you through. So how are your customers contacting you today? You have different channels already embedded in Service Cloud. Talk about messaging, chat, voice. The customers I have talked to, they say, I don't want your solution. I have my own. So bring your own channel. You have that capability in there. We have also built in processes, different processes for case management. You have swarming solutions built in. You want to bring in folks from other departments to quickly solve a customer case. That's right there. There is automation built in. You have bots. You have actions that you can take. You have classification. You can classify a case, route it to the right agent. That's automation. That's built-in automation so that you can get quick resolution. There's also focus on operations. Look at dashboards and reports and see how you can optimize. Where are the gaps in your processes? That's what is an end-to-end solution that gives with Einstein 1 Service Cloud solution. All of this is built on Einstein 1 platform. And this is where the key pieces sit. This is the data cloud, and you have AI right here. So data cloud, we'll talk a little bit more about it, but data cloud is at the center. As a product manager, I don't really care much about AI. Even though I'm an AI product manager, I care about data. We all know with AI, garbage in, garbage out. So data is a fundamental thing that drives these solutions that we are building. So it's the center of truth for our customers. So let's talk about the evolution of how Einstein for Service has evolved over time. Salesforce is celebrating its 25th anniversary now in this month. Service Einstein is celebrating 10 years. 2014, that was the year we launched our first Einstein capability. 10 years hence, we have 17 products that target very different use cases that you want to use. Let's walk through a couple. A recent study from Harvard basically shows that approximately 81% of the customers want to resolve the issues on their own. They don't want to pick up the phone and call an agent. And the geek inside me says that if I solve a problem on my own, I feel like intelligent enough to do so, right? So that's kind of like what the survey says, and that's very true. That's where self-service even shines. If we take that number and use that in our organizations and make more self-service capabilities, like we are focusing completely on automation. Bots, you have case classification, you have article recommendation inflows, search answers, which is based on now GPT. You can quickly get a snippet of what customer is looking for. Moving on, if a conversation really requires an agent, you have agent assist capabilities. You have service replies in chat or in messaging platform where as the conversation is happening, we are discovering what issues the customers are talking about. What's the next best response? We give you knowledge-grounded responses. Summarize the case at the end of a call or a conversation. I know from past experience, a typical conversation takes about 2 to 3 minutes to close. This can reduce that by at least 50 to 60%, the after-call work. And that's huge. Looking at optimization here, a recent study from Metrigy says that 54% of the organizations, the agents there, they now have some level of upsell and cross-sell requirements. They have quota assigned to them. With products like NBA, Next Best Action, they can now cross-sell and upsell products. So these is like, just to give you a sample of like, what are the different technologies that we have built over the last decade that can help several different use cases. Now let's dive a little bit deeper on how our architecture looks. And this is where I would say it starts at Hyperforce first. Hyperforce is a public cloud data infrastructure that we have built where we deploy all our AI and data services at scale while meeting the compliance requirement as well. This is the fundamental layer of our stack. Then comes data cloud. And I will not emphasize this enough, that data is, as I mentioned earlier, data is the most important. This is a hyperscale data lakehouse. And this allows you to ingest, harmonize, and activate your data. And that's where the secret sauce lies, which is how you actually ingest and bring that data into the data lake so that we can understand what the data is talking about and we can ground on that information. And we also allow, I know we have customers who have different data solutions, different data lake solutions. We allow them to bring their own data as well. And on top of that sits the AI models. And that's where, whether you're talking about predictive models, which is, let's say, in-house models or tenant-specific models that are hosted on Salesforce platform, or I want to bring my own LLM. That's where I've talked to customers where they said, I don't want to deal with OpenAI. I want to go with Cohere or Anthropic, some of those bigger large language models. So there are variations of customers who want their own choice of LLM, and that's where we allow that capability to sit on top of the data. And next is most important for us, and you've probably seen this in multiple presentations. Trust is the #1 value for Salesforce. And if we are delivering you AI solutions which are not grounded on trust, then those don't hold value. So we want to minimize or eliminate the risk of data getting out the door, or we are using or anything around hallucination, around toxicity detection, and we'll double click on that in the next slide. So I'll just stop here to just kind of, if you look at Einstein trust layer and below, there's a lot of configurability already built in. You can bring your own data. You can bring your own model. That's configuration at the platform layer. Now let's go one level above. When you want to think about low-level code complexity, right? That's where we have this week we have launched Prompt Builder, Copilot Builder, Model Builder. These are all GA products that you can use to build your own applications. These are low-code deployments, and that's what then surfaces up to the different applications. So you can come in, like even with features that we will be launching soon. You can take some of our turnkey applications, write your own prompt, and you say, maybe you come back and say, I'm not happy with the prompt that Salesforce is giving me. I want to build my own. Use the prompt builder, integrate it with our turnkey app, and you get your own responses. And that's that's another layer of configurability. So you have configurability at the application layer, and you have configurability at the platform layer. And all of this ties in the trust layer. So let's quickly go. I need to give Tim and John the time. But trust layer, this is very important. I would like to quickly touch upon this, is whether you start at the app or in the Copilot, the fundamental building block is the prompt. When you start your prompt, it is bare minimum. And our most important strategy is we want to ground the prompt on your data. So you can directly use, let's say, knowledge articles or past conversations. Or you want to hydrate your data, hydrate the prompt by using Apex flows or MuleSoft APIs. You can do that as well. So there is dynamic grounding built in. And before this goes out, we want to make sure that the data is masked. We are not sending any PII information. We are giving enough instructions to make sure the prompt is protected from a prompt defense strategy. And once these prompts leave the Salesforce boundary, it ends up in, let's say, OpenAI or Cohere or any other models. There is zero data retention policy, and I have been on multiple customer calls on this one. This is like the most important. What is happening to my data that is going in the prompt? Is OpenAI storing it for training? The answer is no. Are they storing in memory? Are they storing on hard disk or whatever? They're storing in memory for processing only. But as soon as the response is generated, they're responsible for deleting that data. Coming back, the response comes back. We do detect any toxicity. If there are any toxic responses, we do want to highlight that, capture that in our matrix. We also want to demask the data. We do the demasking, whatever we have masked along the way. And finally, we do keep some data for a limited time for audit trail purposes. This is a GDPR requirement for us, and that goes back to the application. So just want to kind of close before I hand it over to Tim, is giving you the overall view of how we are thinking about Service Cloud. One-stop shop platform. We are integrating with Data Cloud. We are building AI services for you. And we are building all on capabilities of trust. So I'll pass it on to Tim to speak a little. Oops, sorry.
All right. Thank you, Samir.
Yep, thank you.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I put together a few demos, and I'm going to try to bring some of this to life. And I want to start with a look at what we call conversation mining. I think a question that I get all the time from my customers is like they don't know where to start, right? Like what they want to identify potential use cases for automation, potential use cases for self-service. And Einstein Conversation Mining is actually a solution that we launched last year that allows you to do just that. So what it actually does, or what Einstein Conversation Mining is all about, is it allows you to analyze historical interactions in your contact center or in your service center, right? So if we have data that's come in over chat, if it's come in over messaging, if it's come in over email, or we have even like live phone call information. That's what we're able to build reports off of and actually dig in, identify, and analyze those use cases for automation. This is what it's actually supposed to look like. Again, so the idea behind conversation mining is we're analyzing historical chat, email, messaging, live phone conversations that have come in through Service Cloud Voice, and understanding what's actually consuming time in the service center, right? We want to understand what's the volume look like if we break this down by like topic, by contact reason. Where are we spending time and money? And once we identify those use cases, how can we automate them or introduce them for something like a self-service? So as a supervisor, it's really easy to take this actionable data, dive into conversation mining, and then the process actually starts with this idea of a conversation mining report, right? The idea here is it's point and click. Again, we're leveraging historical data that already exists in your Salesforce org. We're building out some conditional logic around which data we want to use, which use cases we want to identify, and then it's going to identify what are the topics that customers are reaching out to us for, and what are specific contact reasons that they're reaching out to support for as well. In all of these different topic clusters, we're highlighting certain KPIs, like what's our average turn, what's the volume look like, how much time and how much money are we spending on these topic reasons, and from there, we can drill down into additional topics or contact reasons. I think the easiest way to explain is a topic is really more like a general reason why a customer would be reaching out to support. And a contact reason is much more granular, like what specifically they're looking for that's related to that topic. And as we drill down into those contact reasons, we're going to be presented with those same KPIs. And again, this is something a lot of customers that I've worked with for years spent like hours and hours combing through this data, trying to understand what some of these qualitative themes were. And with Einstein conversation mining, we're doing it with just a few clicks, right? If I go ahead and click into one of these examples, we're going to see I'm actually going to be presented with specific excerpts or specific phrases that these customers actually said. So we have the full context of what that conversation was about, right? I can drill down into a specific transcript, see it in context of that conversation, and this is all being done through those mining reports we saw just a few moments ago. I think from here, once we've identified the use cases, it's very easy to take these specific excerpts, add them into something like an intent set, right? Or create like new bot dialogues directly from the actual conversation data our customers are having with us. And then what we're going to see in just a moment is that transition into the Einstein bot builder. We can actually deploy a brand new bot based on the conversation data that we've gathered, right? So again, with just a few more clicks, it's all running through declarative tools, and admin's able to come in, use the new bot wizard, identify that we want to create a bot based on this customer data. We're going to be presented with those same excerpts, that same contact reasons, those same topics, and we can actually deploy that bot just within minutes, right? I choose which excerpts I want to use. What it's going to actually do behind the scenes is actually populate these dialogues with the proper intents for me, so we can start leveraging like natural language processing, natural language understanding right away. If I go ahead and click into one of these dialogues, we'll see exactly what I mean by that. Rather than having to manually add these intents or pull in an intent set off the App Exchange, the bot is already packaged up with the language that my customer is actually using, which again is a huge, huge time saver versus what is traditionally taking a long amount of time drilling through all these different historical records. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to John, who's going to go ahead and pick up where I left off and tell us about a customer that has actually used this.
Site, you get the demo one more time.
Perfect. Let's do this. This is what we're looking for.
All right. Can we hear? Is this good? Okay, cool. Thank you, Tim. So as we just saw, AI is turning insights into action. All right, so with AI, you're able to sort through just tons and tons of data and saving you just hours of manual work and being able to surface or serve up the right information at the right time. So your service teams can resolve cases faster. So the tangible benefit of AI, it's real. This is actually happening. There's companies across every industry that are benefiting from AI today. One of those companies is HMH. So HMH is a publisher of textbooks and instructional materials, and we partnered with them. They're using Einstein for Service, specifically Einstein conversation mining, which Tim showed just a moment ago. So they were able to go through all of their case records, go through all of their incoming chats, conversations, and find real-life actions to take to improve how their service operations run. So we've actually, together, we've been able to save them hundreds of hours by identifying automations that they could implement on their agent side as well as the self-service side based on incoming cases and conversations. We've been able to improve their Einstein bots, whether that's through the bot paths, making sure it's going to the right knowledge articles, identifying knowledge articles that they might not have had, but realized if they could make them and point their customers to them, they'd be able to self-serve quicker, as well as just improving the simplicity of bot menus, getting, again, customers to the right solution quicker to self-serve, and making more relevant service replies for agents to use. So Einstein for Service made a huge impact with HMH. I mean, we were able to increase the deflection rate by 34% and decrease their average chat handle times by 90 seconds. So it was just really awesome stuff there. So in order to provide long-term, or to have long-term customer success, you need to be providing personalized, smart, fast service. And no matter the who, what, when, or why when it comes to the customer interaction. So as we talked about earlier, we're investing a ton into our new innovations and new features. And we want to make sure that we're providing you with the right tools, the newest tools, to be successful and to provide your customers with the right service. So who was here last year for TDX? Okay, all right, we got some. So you'll remember that we rolled out Einstein GPT, and we had two main features: service replies, so those generative AI replies for agents to use based on your knowledge articles and conversation context. We had conversation summaries, which were generative summaries, you can maybe guess, for case closure and conversations and so forth. But look at us now. We've rolled out, I mean, this past year has been like actually incredible to work at Salesforce, where the product teams have just been like churning out new innovations. So we've got some really great stuff that's GA now, beta pilot coming out. We've added new grounding sources so that you're making sure all your generative AI has the right materials and content to provide the right service to your customers. We've got new generative outputs with search answers and knowledge creation, which is going to be part of the Einstein for Service SKU. And we also have multilingual support where we're rolling out some new pilots coming here shortly. But there's so much innovation coming. Definitely keep up with it. Some awesome stuff here. And I'm going to pass it back to Tim now to get into show you how Einstein for Service works.
All right. Thank you, John. But I put together another demo where I'm going to walk through what some of those generative features actually look like in context. So let me go ahead and fire it up. And again, the second example is going to show some of the generative features through a number of different channels that Samir talked about at the beginning. And I'm actually going to start with a more traditional example where we're looking at a case in the service console. We have our milestones, our SLAs. And what we see here is this idea of case classification, right? This is something we've been doing a long time, leveraging historical information to guide agents on how an interaction should be classified. Same is going to apply with like Einstein recommended knowledge, where we understand what's been successful in the past. We can serve that up to our customers. And I think what's new is this idea of knowledge-generated email replies, right? Where traditionally we would have to rely on email templates, and that put a big burden on the admin team to have to put all of these templates together. I think generative AI is a great way to offload some of that, still keep that human in the loop, leverage the knowledge we have inside of Salesforce, and create brand new content on the fly. As we transition to our next example here, I want to show what it looks like through the lens of a messaging session or a chat that we're initiating through a help center. This is actually an Experience Cloud site. And what we're going to see in just a moment is I'm going to pick that up in the service console. So we're, of course, going to leverage omnichannel, get that to the right agent at the right time with respect to queue, skill, capacity, availability. And what we're going to see is I accept that messaging session. Number one, I'm immediately going to have visibility into who this customer is. And number two, we're immediately going to start leveraging generative service replies to reply to this customer, right? And I think what makes this so powerful is the service replies, like Samir called out at the beginning, it's really only as good as your data, right? And so what we've done is we've opened up a number of sources that we can leverage dynamically for grounding, right? We talk about like using the current conversation context. We talk about using historical case data that lives inside Salesforce. I mentioned the idea of the knowledge base earlier, right? And that's what we see in the demo. As that conversation is progressing, I don't need to dig through the knowledge base, extract the relevant bits of information, copy and paste all that into chat, right? Einstein is doing all of that work for me, so it's not only making me more productive, more efficient, it's also making me more effective as an agent, right? And I'm going to show the setup in just a moment because this is something that can be deployed very easily with just a few clicks. As the conversation progresses, we can also leverage Einstein to help out when we're dispositioning out the interaction. Again, something that's typically very time-consuming. We're able to generate a natural language summary, capture what the issue was, capture the resolution, and save that all as part of this messaging record. Where I'm going to go next, again, the benefits don't really just apply to agents either. I think something I'm going to start to talk about as the presentation goes on is this idea of leveraging generative for supervisors as well. So what we see here is Omni Supervisor. Again, this has been around for a while. The ability to drill down, monitor specific agents in real time has been here for a while too. And what's new is rather than reviewing this entire conversation manually, it's another great opportunity for something like a generative AI to provide a quick summary of what has taken place in this interaction. I can provide feedback on whether that was useful to me or not, and then dive right in, start to whisper instructions, help my agents out if they're stuck on something, okay? And then for the last bit, or where we see it in action, I'm actually going to show a quick phone call using Service Cloud Voice. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I should say, what Service Cloud Voice is we're essentially bringing contact center telephony into Salesforce, treating it as a native channel. And what that really means for our agents and our admins is as we're bringing these new channels online, we don't need to retrain all of our agents, right? It's build it once, it's deploy anywhere, and we can immediately start tapping into some of the automation, some of the intelligence tools, some of the generative features I've been talking about throughout the presentation, right? So what we're actually seeing is as this conversation is progressing, we're bringing that transcript into the console in real time. We can leverage something like a conversational intelligence rule to trigger recommendations, right, based off like keywords, sentiment, any other sort of intent, and then those same generative features apply, right? When we talk about like conversation summaries, capturing the summary, capturing the issue, capturing the resolution, things that are normally very time-consuming, we're able to offload that off of the agent's plate so they can focus on the more complex. When we go ahead and look at the setup, I'm going to start with case classification, which was the first predictive feature we saw. And again, this is something Salesforce customers have been using for a very long time, but the idea here is it's all deployed with point and click right from Salesforce setup, right? And I think a predictive analytics tool like case classification does have some pretty rigid data requirements. I think that's a big compare and contrast between what we're doing with generative. But once you actually have that model built out, it's super easy for admins to come in here, set the threshold, change the thresholds on those models, and determine when Einstein is going to automate a prediction versus serve up recommendations to that agent, right? I think the flip side of that, again, is where we're going with generative, where a lot of these features could not be easier to turn on. So when I talk about like leveraging grounding, using case data, using information that's in the knowledge base, we're simply operating out of setup, pointing where that information is stored, right? And if those knowledge articles aren't inside Salesforce, it's a great opportunity for something like unified knowledge, right? Where we can pull in external content, treat it as if it was first-party knowledge, and then immediately start to leverage that content when we're creating new content through something like a service reply or a conversation summary. The same is going to apply for the email example. It's a simple slider to turn on this functionality. A lot of customers I talk to already have these features available. And then last but not least is this idea of conversation summaries, right? So again, right inside Salesforce setup, super easy for admins to set up. You're simply pointing it to where you want those summaries, those issues, those resolutions stored, whether that's part of like a related case or part of like the messaging or voice call record itself. And then it's a very simple mapping exercise, right? Salesforce does all the work, like Samir called out at the beginning. We already have Salesforce hosted models or LLM partners that we've partnered with. And so our customers are able to tap in and start leveraging these features almost immediately. So once again, let me pass it back to John. He's going to walk us through an example of a customer who has already started leveraging these features.
And I'm going to try to make this the quickest 2 slides of all time here. Okay, so as we've seen, AI is augmenting agents and making them more productive output. But what's also awesome is that AI is able to make your agents more effective and more consistent, so therefore increasing your customer satisfaction. So that's one thing that Winola was able to realize. They were one of our pilot generative AI customers, and because they were using our service replies, their agents were actually able to feel more confident when responding to cases or with conversations with customers, especially their non-English agents. And this was huge because it reduced their training time, it reduced agent turnover, and they were able to have a consistent brand voice throughout all of their customer interactions. So we were able, I mean, I just love that, thinking that AI is helping your agents be more confident and making them have a better working environment, and just the amount of money you save by not having the turnover or saving on training time. So some of the key statistics here to point out is they were able just to save 5+ hours a week for their agents and work, and they're decreasing their average handle time by 20%. So these are some other highlights of our roadmap. So some generative, some other ones. A big one I want to call out is our unified knowledge. So you all may not, or Salesforce might not be the center of the universe for you all like it is us, but we know that you have knowledge elsewhere, Google Docs, other systems, and so forth, but you still want your agents to have access to it as well as your generative AI capabilities. So unified knowledge makes that possible. So you can have everything within Salesforce and accessible. Also wanted to call out some field service features we have available from a generative perspective. Pre-work briefs. So your field techs are able to get updates on, hey, what's the job coming up? What's the previous history been for this asset or for this individual? What do I need to do? Do I have the right equipment? So forth. Gives them everything they need to do or need to have. You've got knowledge search for on-site technicians as well, increasing their work completion time, and then summaries or post-work summaries, so they're able to wrap up quicker, saving them time, and then being able to use that in the future. So I'm going to pass it back so we can get to this last demo.
All right, thank you, John. All right, I'll run us through quickly since we're almost out of time. Again, I apologize about the technical difficulties, but I do want to spend just a few minutes talking about where we're going in the future. How we're going to be able to leverage something like a Copilot or a prompt builder or some of those platform capabilities that we haven't had yet a chance to talk about. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to check out some of the sessions on Copilot. Obviously, that's one of our latest announcements. We just went into beta last week. And how that actually works is it starts with a conversation, right? There's really 3 pieces to it. So Copilot's a conversational AI assistant built right into the flow of work our agents are already doing. From there, based on that user input or based on that conversation, Copilot's able to come up with a plan. And what I mean by that, it's able to determine which actions it's going to need to execute on that plan, right? There's a number of standard actions that have shipped with Copilot. Customers have a lot of flexibility building out their own custom actions to tap into their own unique business processes. And then the last bit is to execute. And when I talk about execute, I mean tapping into automation and intelligence tools that, again, a lot of us are probably already very familiar with. So I built out a number of custom Copilot actions in the week leading up, working on some demos that we're actually showing out there in the campground. But it leverages flow, right? It leverages Apex triggers, right? It leverages APIs. It leverages data that already lives in CRM. So if we have familiarity with those tools, it's super easy to tap into that and start using it right away. And then the last bit, of course, is the outcome, or what's actually generated. And as Samir reminded us right at the beginning, that, of course, is generated securely with that zero retention data architecture in place. So a little bit more about Copilot. I mentioned just a moment ago that we just launched the beta for Copilot right at the end of February. So I would certainly encourage you all to take a look. If you don't already have access to that, that's certainly something you're going to want to talk to your account executives about. I made the point earlier that a lot of what we're doing with generative is not only focused on our agents. John brought up field service just a moment ago. I think that's another great example where we have Copilot use cases already in development for supervisors, for technicians. We even have Copilot use cases that are going to be focused around that customer experience. So when we talk about like generating dynamic content on the fly, serving that up to a customer, maybe as part of like a bot conversation. And again, grounding that in information that lives in Salesforce, lives in the knowledge base, or if we're bringing in external data through Data Cloud. With that, I'll close us up with just a few last thoughts and resources. So I mentioned our demo booth in the campground just a moment ago. I'm actually going to be over there at 3 o'clock, so come and meet me over at the Service Cloud booth if y'all have any questions. There's a ton of good booths over there that cover Copilot, Prompt Builder, a lot of the stuff we talked about today. There is a quick look up on Trailhead if you want to learn a little bit more about Einstein for Service. The middle box, I made the point just a moment ago too, if this is something you're interested in, if you want to try out Prompt Builder, if you want to try out Copilot, certainly follow up with your account executive. Those features are available to be used today. And then come and join us at one of our upcoming events. So next month, we actually have 2 world tours if anybody's in town from DC or New York City. We would love to see you out there. With that said, on behalf of myself, Samir, John, I just want to say thank you all for taking the time to be with us here today. Again, I apologize about the technical difficulties, but we really appreciate your time.